All right, this is the Chapter 9 video response post for EDM 500 with Dr. Jen Miller. Let's get this thing going. So for this week, we were asked to read Chapter 9 of Cresswell and Guterman. I still don't know how to say that. Their educational research textbook, the one we've been doing all the class so far. So this week's prompt is kind of like a 4-part question. So I'll go part by part. And let's get into it. So the first part is, why are clear and ethical reporting essential in educational research? It's essential for a number of reasons. First of all, you want to make sure that the findings are understandable, usable, trustworthy, relevant. You want to make sure that those findings actually make sense and can be used to help other people solve the problem that you were trying to solve with your research. It needs to be all of those things for a diverse audience, so anybody who could utilize that research. And it's not just a formality, it's part of the researcher's responsibility to represent everybody involved in the study respectfully and ethically, and try to avoid things like bias, disclose limitations, and just be honest with the presentation. Without those things, the credibility suffers, and then ultimately the research is not super helpful for anyone. Some of the strategies they suggest: be consistent with the structure and terminology. So use like a standardized format, clear tables and visuals, so presenting the data in a way that's understandable, concise, makes sense, is easy to read. Combine narrative and numbers. Don't just show a bunch of numbers on the screen and not explain what those numbers mean. Be sensitive in the language ethically. So don't, try not to be biased, try not to stigmatize. And then be transparent with everything you use. Explain what you did, how the procedures you use, the instruments, the decisions you made analytically, the decisions you made, as far as looking at the data and interpreting it. The more transparency you can provide, the better off that presentation is going to be. Evaluation criteria. So we want to make sure that the the findings are valid. Is the study measuring what it's supposed to measure? Is the study and the findings reliable? Are they consistent and dependable across time? Could I do this and find similar results? And then transparency is key. Like if you're gonna present results, you better be transparent about how you got them. Tell people exactly how you got them, even why you got them, what instrumentation was used, what methods were used. That way, it's exactly how that test or that study was done, and you can go ahead and kind of draw your conclusions from that. Make sure that it's all reliable. And then the last thing, be an example in my field. So I work as a strength conditioning coach. I do this a lot. There are a lot of bad studies out there in strength and conditioning, I'll be honest. So an example would be, maybe I was looking at this is a true real life example from this year. I was trying to figure out the best way to train our football team the day before a game. How could I help them play their best on Saturday if we're training on Friday and we have less than a 24-hour turnaround? So I looked at something called post-activation potentiation, and that is essentially a carryover of performance effects from a workout or a specific protocol into the following days. So a lot of these studies, for example, I looked at a weighted jump and then an accelerated band jump. I want to see who is involved in this study. How were they tracking the study? How did they figure out that this protocol helped a couple of days later? Is the study valid? Is it reliable? Is it consistent? Did they use the same warm-up for everybody, the same rest intervals for everybody? Things like that. If you have one group sit on a bike for 5 minutes while the other group's doing this protocol, and then you compare the results after, it just doesn't seem very valid to me that those results would even come close to being appropriate or make sense. And then the last thing would be transparent. I would want to look exactly the protocol they use, how they use it. Did they use dumbbells for the weighted jumps? Did they use trap bars for the weighted jumps? What kind of band did they use? Did they use a high tension band, a low tension band? What exactly did they measure, 24, 48, 72 hours later, depending on what the study is? What did they measure to see that performance increase? And from there, I can kind of draw my own conclusions. I can compare it to other studies, compare it to, knowledge that I know from other coaches, from experience, things like that. Those are all really important. And I'm constantly, shuffling through data, shuffling through studies and things like that, just to make sure that my program is the best it can be. So this chapter was really relevant to what I do on the day-to-day here as a strength and conditioning coach at Lake Erie College. So I enjoyed this chapter. I'm really excited to kind of dive into this research project here in the coming weeks. And thank you for listening. Appreciate it.